Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty intense. What happens when everything goes wrong, when emergency services just get completely overwhelmed?
Yeah, sheer chaos.
Exactly. We're diving deep into the playbooks, the systems that EMTs and other responders use to manage things like mass casualty incidents, MCIs, and hazmat events.
Right. And the key thing to grasp up front is that these situations are, by definition, overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So the usual way of treating patients, it has to shift
To what?
to something highly organized, really systematic. The mission changes. It becomes about finding the, quote, greatest good for the greatest number of people. It's a tough mindset shift.
Okay, let's start with just defining terms. We hear disaster and MCI thrown around. They sound similar, both like total chaos. How are they actually different from a response perspective?
That's a good question because it's not always just about like how many people are hurt.
Yeah.
It really boils down to the strain on resources. So an MCI, technically, is 3 or more patients. Or it can be any situation that just demands way more resources, people, equipment than the local system has right then and there.
So they have to call for backup, mutual aid.
Exactly. Mutual aid kicks in. Think a big highway pileup or maybe a train crash.
Got it. So what makes something a full-blown disaster then?
A disaster is, well, bigger in scope and duration. It disrupts the whole community, maybe for days or weeks. Think Hurricane Katrina, that scale. And legally, only an elected official can actually declare it a disaster.
Interesting.
But here's a surprising point, maybe. Resource strain is the absolute key. You could have an incident with only 2 critical patients.
Just 2?
Yeah, just 2. But if you only have 1 ambulance crew available, they're instantly overwhelmed. That single unit can't handle it. So functionally, even with just 2 patients, it can feel like a disaster for that responding crew because their capacity is exceeded. It's all relative to resources.
Wow, okay. That really underlines why you need a plan, a structure. You can't just wing it when resources are that thin.
Precisely.
Which brings us to NIMS, the National Incident Management System. Why this big, standardized framework? What was going wrong before?
Oh, it was messy. Before NIMS really got implemented around 2004, you had different agencies, fire, police, EMS, sometimes federal folks showing up, and honestly, they often couldn't work together effectively.
How so?
Different jargon, radios they couldn't talk to each other, totally different command structures. Imagine the confusion. NIMS forces everyone onto the same page.
Standardization.
Exactly. Standard terminology, standard training, standard ways of classifying resources, and maybe most importantly, interoperability.
Making sure the radios actually work together.
Yes. Shared frequencies, common language.
Mhm.
It stops those turf wars and communication breakdowns before they even start. It ensures a unified effort.
So NIMS is the overall philosophy, the big picture. What's the actual org chart they use on scene? How do they keep a huge response from turning into a free-for-all?
That's the Incident Command System, or ICS. Think of it as the specific, scalable organizational structure for that incident. It's designed explicitly to prevent what they call freelancing.
Freelancing, like responders just doing their own thing.
Yeah, individuals or single units making decisions without coordinating. It sounds heroic, maybe, but it's usually inefficient and sometimes dangerous. ICS provides clear roles and reporting structures.
And a key principle there is span of control, right? Keeping the management structure flat enough.
Absolutely critical. Span of control. The idea is you limit any one supervisor to overseeing roughly 5 people, give or take. Maybe 3 to 7 in reality, but ideally 5.
Why is that so important?
If one person tries to manage, say, 10 or 15 people directly, decision-making just grinds to a halt. Communication breaks down, things get missed. Keeping the span of control tight ensures efficient command.
Okay, under the main incident commander, or IC, you have the command staff. Some of these roles seem to have, well, a lot of independent power, like the safety officer.
Oh, the safety officer is crucial. Their only job is to watch out for the responder's safety and identify hazards. And here's the fascinating part. They report directly to the IC, but they have the authority, the absolute authority, to stop any part of the emergency operation instantly.
Seriously, overruling the incident commander.
If they see an immediate, unacceptable risk to a rescuer, yes, they can halt that specific action, or even the whole thing until the hazard is dealt with. Safety trumps everything else in that moment. It's a huge responsibility.
Wow. Okay. And what about dealing with, the outside world, the media, anxious families?
That falls to the Public Information Officer, the PIO. Their job is to get clear, accurate information out, and strategically. They're often set up away from the main command post
Way away.
to minimize distractions for the command team who are trying to manage the actual incident.
Yeah.
The PIO needs to communicate, but the IC needs to focus.
Yeah.
So give them separate space.
Makes sense. Then below the IC and command staff, you've got the general staff sections. Operations, planning, logistics, finance admin. Operations is doing the hands-on stuff.
Right, like the medical response.
But who's making sure they don't run out of bandages or fuel for the trucks? Or even just food and water for the crews hours later?
That's logistics. The logistics section chief is the miracle worker finding all the stuff. Supplies, facilities, transportation, food, water, you name it. Planning looks ahead, tracking resources, predicting needs, documenting everything. Finance keeps track of costs, personnel time, etc., which is vital for getting reimbursed later. Everyone has a very specific job.
Okay, let's zoom in on the ops side, specifically medical. There's a medical branch director, and under them, crucial roles like triage, treatment, and transport. This leads us right into maybe the toughest job there is, triage.
Yeah, triage. This is where the cold, hard structure meets, frankly, impossible decisions. The triage supervisor or triage officer, their main job is just rapid sorting, categorizing patients,
Treating them?
not providing definitive treatment. No, that's the incredibly hard rule. The goal is speed and assessment based purely on how critical they are, their acuity.
That must be incredibly difficult for an EMT. Their whole instinct is to stop and help someone who's badly hurt.
It's counterintuitive, and it's drilled into them. The rule is, you do not stop to provide extensive care during the initial triage sweep. Maybe open an airway, stop massive bleeding with a quick tourniquet, but that's it. They have to move on.
Why?
Because if the triage officer stops to treat the first critical patient they find, the whole system breaks down. They might spend 10 minutes on one person, while 5 others who could have been saved with quicker intervention die. You must assess everyone first to figure out who needs the limited resources most urgently. It's about that greatest good for the greatest number.
Okay, let's walk through the categories they use. There's a mnemonic, right? IDME.
Yes, IDME helps remember the 4 standard triage tags or categories.
So what are they?
First, immediate. That's the red tag. These are top priority. They've got problems with airway, breathing, circulation, severe bleeding, shock, maybe severe burns. They need help now or they won't make it. Immediate care and transport.
Okay, red is first. What's next?
Delayed, the yellow tag. Second priority. These folks have serious injuries, maybe major broken bones, back injuries without spinal cord damage yet, but their life isn't in immediate danger. Treatment can be delayed for, say, up to an hour or so.
Got it.
And then, minimal, the green tag. Third priority. These are often called the walking wounded. Minor fractures, cuts, scrapes, bruises. They need care eventually, but they can wait the longest. Their transport is often delayed until reds and yellows are gone.
And the last one? This is the hardest one.
Yeah. Expectant, the black tag. Fourth priority. This category is for those who are obviously deceased or have injuries so catastrophic like massive head trauma with exposed brain matter, or maybe they're in cardiac arrest in a situation where you just don't have the resources for prolonged CPR.
So survival is essentially impossible given the circumstances.
Exactly, or highly unlikely. The protocol is harsh but necessary. They receive treatment only after everyone in the red, yellow, and green categories has been cared for.
That's a heavy burden, sorting people like that. How do responders cope with tagging someone who's still alive as expectant?
It is the absolute ethical crux of an MCI. The system forces that decision to prevent emotional bias from costing more lives overall. The logic is brutal. Spending limited resources on one expectant patient might mean 2 or 3 red-tagged patients who could have survived don't get treatment in time. The framework is designed to remove that individual decision paralysis.
But you mentioned an exception, a time when the rules for black tags get flipped.
Yes, a very specific one. Reverse triage. This is used for lightning strike victims.
Lightning. Why?
Because with lightning strikes, someone might go into immediate cardiac or respiratory arrest, but it's often temporary if you start CPR right away. They look dead, they might meet black tag criteria normally, no breathing, no pulse. But in a lightning strike scenario, those patients are actually treated first because they have a surprisingly good chance of recovery with immediate intervention.
Wow. Okay. That's counterintuitive, makes medical sense. Let's get practical. How do they actually do the sorting that quickly? You mentioned the START method.
Right. START, simple triage, and rapid treatment. It's designed to be fast, under 60 seconds per patient, ideally.
So what's step 1?
Step 1 is often dealing with the greens, the minimal injuries. You basically shout, anyone who can hear me and can get up and walk over to that tree, or whatever landmark you designate.
Self-triage.
Pretty much. That immediately clears out a whole group of less injured people, letting you focus on those who can't move. They get green tags, usually.
Okay, so you've got the non-walkers left. What then?
Then you go patient by patient using RPM, respirations, perfusion, mental status.
RPM, break that down.
Okay. First, respirations. Are they breathing? If not, you quickly open their airway. If they still don't breathe, they're tagged black, unless it's lightning or PEDS. We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
If they do start breathing or were breathing already, you check the rate. Is it too fast, over 30 roughly, or too slow, under 10? If yes, they're immediate red.
What if their breathing rate is okay, like between 10 and 30?
Then you move to perfusion, basically checking circulation. The quickest way is the radial pulse, the one in their wrist. Can you feel it? If it's absent, that suggests shock, poor circulation. They get tagged immediate, red.
And if the radial pulse is present?
Then you check mental status. Can they follow simple commands? Squeeze my hand, open your eyes. If they can follow commands, they're categorized as delayed, yellow. If they can't follow simple commands, maybe they're unconscious or confused, they get tagged immediate red.
So that sequence walk, RPM lets you sort quickly, less than a minute. But you said it changes for kids.
It does. Kids aren't just little adults. We use JumpStart for pediatric triage, usually defined as kids under 8 years old or under about 100 pounds.
What's the big difference in JumpStart?
The crucial difference is with breathing. If you find a child who isn't breathing but does have a pulse.
Unlike the adult start, where no breathing often means black tag.
Right. In JumpStart, if they aren't breathing but have a pulse, you give them 5 rescue breaths, just 5 quick breaths. If they start breathing after that, great, you continue the assessment. If they still don't breathe after those 5 rescue breaths, then they are tagged expectant black.
Why that extra step for kids?
Because kids are much more likely to have respiratory arrest lead to cardiac arrest. Their problem is often breathing first. So those few rescue breaths have a higher chance of actually restarting their breathing and saving them, compared to an adult in the same state. It acknowledges that key physiological difference.
That small change could make a life or death difference.
Okay, so everyone's tagged. Red, yellow, green, black. Who manages getting them to hospitals?
That's the transportation supervisor working under the medical branch. Their job is critical. They track every patient, coordinate with all the receiving hospitals to figure out who has capacity for what kind of patient. That's called surge capacity.
Right. You don't want to send all the critical patients to one hospital and overwhelm it. Exactly. They distribute the load. Reds go first, usually transported quickly, maybe 2 at a time in an ambulance if needed. Then the yellows.
And the greens, the walking wounded, you said they wait.
Often, yes. And to preserve local ER capacity for the criticals, the greens might be collected and put on a bus.
A bus.
Yeah, like a school bus or a city bus, and transported to hospitals further away, or maybe even to temporary clinics set up for minor injuries.
Yeah.
It's all about maximizing the use of those critical trauma beds nearby.
Okay, that covers sorting the victims, you can see. Let's shift gears to a different kind of danger, often invisible. Hazardous materials or hazmat. You mentioned EMTs usually operate at the awareness level. What does that practically mean?
Awareness level means recognize and run. Well, not run, but recognize and report. Their primary job is to identify that a potential hazmat situation exists, secure the area from a safe distance, and call in the specialized hazmat team.
They don't go in?
Absolutely not. An EMT without specialized hazmat training and gear does not enter a potential hot zone, period. Their safety and preventing the spread of contamination is paramount.
So what are the clues? How do they recognize a possible hazmat scene when they first roll up?
There are visual cues, weird smoke or clouds, liquids leaking from a container, dead animals or vegetation nearby. Olfactory cues, strange or strong chemical smells. But a huge red flag, maybe the biggest one, is multiple patients down.
Multiple people collapse.
Yes. If you arrive on scene and see 2 or more people collapsed, unconscious, having trouble breathing, especially in an open area with no obvious cause like trauma, you have to assume the environment itself is toxic until proven otherwise. Back up, get uphill, get upwind.
Uphill and upwind. Why?
Most hazardous gases or vapors are heavier than air. They'll flow downhill, and the wind will carry them, so you want the wind at your back, blowing the material away from you. Use binoculars to assess from afar.
Okay, they've recognized the danger, kept their distance. How do they start figuring out what the substance is?
Several tools. First, look for DOT placards on trucks or containers. Those diamond-shaped signs with colors and numbers.
Right, you see those on tanker trucks.
Exactly. And labels on smaller packages. But, important caveat, there's a 1,000-pound rule. Sometimes, if a vehicle is carrying less than about 1,000 pounds of certain hazardous materials, it might not need a placard.
So an unmarked truck could still be dangerous.
Definitely. So placards are helpful, but not foolproof. The next tool is the Emergency Response Guidebook, the ERG. Every emergency vehicle should have one.
What's in the ERG? How do they use it quickly?
It's basically a cheat sheet for about 4,000 common chemicals. It's color-coded. You find the 4-digit UN number from the placard or the material's name if you know it, look it up in the index, and it sends you to a guide page.
And that page tells you.
Initial safety info. How far to evacuate, immediate fire or health hazards, basic first aid, what kind of protective clothing might be needed for entry teams. It's first response guidance, not the final word, but critical in the first few minutes.
What if it's something really obscure or they need more detail?
Then they can use facility documents if it's at a fixed site, like material safety data sheets, MSDS, or the newer safety data sheets, SDS. Businesses handling chemicals have to have these. They detail everything about the chemical. Or they call Chemtrek.
Chemtrek.
Yeah, it's a 247 hotline, 1-800-262-8200. It connects first responders directly with chemical manufacturers and technical experts. You give them the product name or number, they can tell you exactly what you're dealing with and how to handle it. An invaluable resource.
Okay, so they identify the threat. The specialized hazmat team arrives. What's the first thing they do to control the scene?
Establish control zones. This is absolutely fundamental to prevent spreading the contamination. They set up boundaries.
Like police state.
Way more than that. Usually 3 distinct zones, hot, warm, and cold.
Okay, what's the hot zone?
That's ground zero. The area immediately around the spill or release. It's the most contaminated, highest risk. Access is strictly limited to hazmat technicians in the highest level of protective gear needed, usually level A or B.
Then the warm zone.
The warm zone is the buffer area around the hot zone. This is where personnel and equipment transition out, and critically, it contains the decontamination corridor or deacon area.
Decontamination, getting the chemical off.
Exactly. Everyone and everything coming out of the hot zone must pass through deacon before entering the cold zone. Rescuers get washed down, victims get decontaminated, equipment gets cleaned or bagged. This prevents tracking the hazard outwards.
And finally, the cold zone.
The cold zone is the clean area. It's considered safe. This is where the incident command post is set up, where support personnel are staged, and importantly for us, where the EMS treatment area is located.
So this is where EMTs will actually treat patients coming out of Deacon?
Generally, yes.
Okay.
By the time a patient reaches the cold zone treatment area, they should have been decontaminated. So responders there usually only need standard PPE, maybe level D, which is just like their regular work uniform, and gloves eye protection.
You mentioned PPE levels A, B, C, D. Briefly, what are they?
Level A is the highest fully encapsulated airtight suit with its own air supply, SCBA, worn inside the suit. Think moon suit. Level B is high respiratory protection, SCBA, but less skin protection, not fully airtight. Level C uses an air purifying respirator, like a gas mask filter, instead of supplied air, so the atmosphere has to be known and below certain concentrations. And Level D is just your basic work uniform, minimal protection.
So EMTs treating decontaminated patients are usually in Level D?
Correct, in the cold zone.
Okay, so a patient makes it through Deacon, arrives in the cold zone treatment area. What's the medical focus now?
Now, it shifts back towards more traditional EMS, but with awareness of the exposure. You're treating the effects of the hazardous material, maybe respiratory distress, chemical burns, neurological issues, and any associated trauma they might have suffered. Airway, breathing, circulation support is key. High-flow oxygen is common, then rapid transport.
But what about that nightmare scenario? A patient is critically injured, bleeding out, say, and contaminated. Decontamination takes time. What if they won't survive the delay?
That is one of the toughest calls an incident commander has to make, usually in consultation with the hazmat team leader and medical control. If the time needed for full, proper decontamination would almost certainly result in the patient's death from their injuries.
They might skip Deacon.
They might make the incredibly difficult decision to perform a very rapid, gross decontamination, maybe just a quick rinse, and then transport the patient still contaminated directly to a hospital prepared to receive them.
But that puts the ambulance crew, the hospital staff, everyone down the line at risk.
It absolutely does. It widens the contamination footprint significantly. It's a calculated risk, weighing the near-certain death of the patient against the potential exposure risk to others. It's only done in the most extreme life versus limb or life versus death situations. And it requires careful coordination with the receiving hospital. It goes back to that greatest good calculation, but on an individual level this time, with huge ripple effects.
Wow. We've really covered a lot. From the big picture frameworks like NIMS and ICS that impose order, to the brutal efficiency of start triage sorting lives, and then managing invisible threats with hazmat zones and Deacon, these are incredible systems built for impossible moments.
They really are. And what strikes me is how these systems, they standardize the process. The checklists, the roles, the zones, they make the response predictable,
Mhm.
scalable. But the human element, that remains the hardest part.
Making those calls.
Yeah. Training tells you how to tag someone black, but actually doing it, or telling the walking wounded they have to wait while someone else is dying, that requires immense discipline and trust in the system. And it all hinges on preparation.
That seems to be the recurring theme, preparation.
Absolutely. The plan itself, the written document, the drills, the agreements between agencies, that work has to happen before the disaster. You can't invent this structure when alarms are blaring and people are screaming.
So the plan isn't just a binder on a shelf.
No way. It has to be muscle memory. Preparedness is what allows responders to function effectively when total chaos hits. You default to your training, to the practice plan, because that's the only way to bring order and save the most lives possible.
A really powerful takeaway. Thank you for walking us through all that complexity. It gives you a whole new appreciation for what goes on behind the scenes during major emergencies.
It was my pleasure. It's important stuff to understand.
Join us next time for another deep dive.